All right, so here we go on our lesson about multiplying with decimals. After this lesson, you should be able to multiply decimals by whole numbers and decimals with decimals, and then solve problems involving multiplying decimals. All right, so first and foremost, we have our vocabulary. So the first word is product. The product is the result when two or more numbers are multiplied. So again, it's like sum and difference. It doesn't mean to multiply, but it implies that you should multiply. Okay, so the product in this case would be 18 because that's what you get when you do 6 times 3. All right, next we have factor. The factors are whole numbers that when multiplied get a given product, or they're also numbers that divide another number without getting a remainder. In this case, when we talk about factors, the factors are the numbers that you multiply to get to a number. So in this case, if you take 2 times 12, for example, and get 24, your factors would be 12 and 2. All right, so your steps for multiplying decimals. And actually your steps for multiplying decimals by decimals and decimals by whole numbers are exactly the same. All right, so first and foremost, what you're going to do is you're lining up your numbers. Now this is different from addition and subtraction in that addition and subtraction you had to line up your decimals. For multiplication, you do not have to. So that's where it gets confusing. So here you just line up your numbers on the right hand side. So my 2 and my 6 are my last digits, so I line those up. Next, I ignore the decimal and I multiply. So I'm literally writing this without my decimal, and I'm going to multiply. Now when I multiply as normal. 2 times 6 is 2, carry the 1. 0 times 6 is 0, plus 1 is 1. 0 as my placeholder. 0 times 2 is 0. 0 times 0 is 0. Okay, and I add and I get 0, 1, 2. Now I could have just stopped at 12 because this 0 is always going to give me 0. However, if you're comfortable continuing on, that is completely fine. Okay, next you're going to place your decimal. So to place our decimal, we go back to our original problem and we see how many numbers are after the decimals. Okay, and this is for both numbers. So I have 1 here and 1 here. So that gives me a total of 2. So I have to start from the right and move my decimal 2 places to the left, making my answer 0 and 12 hundredths. All right, well now what happens when we multiply by a power of 10? We've talked about this before, where 4 times 10, we know that that gives us 40. But remember, the decimal in the 4 is after the 4, so it's here, and then that decimal is moving over 1 place to the right, and we add a 0. For 4 times 100, that decimal is after the 4, and it moves 2 places to the right, and we add 2 zeros. So let's take that concept and turn it into and use it when we multiply with decimals. So here we have 4 tenths and we're multiplying it by 10. Again, we move our decimal once to the right. So 4 tenths times 10 is going to give me 4. Whenever I'm multiplying by a power of 10, all I have to do is swing my decimal. I don't actually have to set up the math. And this will make some of my other problems go a bit faster. Same thing, I'm multiplying by 100. 100 has 2 zeros, so I'm going to move it 2 places to the right and add a 0, so this would be 40. All right, that's all that we have for today. You are actually going to go through and you are going to set up your problem and you are going to do the multiplication. As always, if you have any questions, please be sure to write them down or email me so we can go over them in class.